They said I was too ugly for love. My blunt, truthful family never missed a chance to remind me how plain I was, and how that's why I'd always lose opportunities, even love, until he chose me over the prettiest girl in town. My name is Emma Carter, and I'm 25 years old. I grew up being told I was realistic looking. That's the polite way my family put it. My mom would say, "We don't sugarcoat things in this house. If something is black, we call it black," which in my case meant they called me plain, below average, forgettable. My sister Lily was stunning. My brother Ethan was handsome and charismatic. I was book smart and helpful. My mom liked to add, "At least you have a good heart." It's funny, they thought they were being honest. But when honesty sounds like a daily reminder that you're not enough, it doesn't build character, crushes it. By the time I hit 25, my self-esteem was basically non-existent. I never believed I'd find love. Why would I? My family always said good looks open doors, jobs, relationships, respect. And then, Daniel walked into my life. It was at a mutual friend's engagement party in Boston. I was standing in the corner near the dessert table, trying to look busy rearranging cupcakes so I wouldn't have to mingle. My fingers shifted the little frosted swirls in neat rows, but my eyes kept scanning the room, searching for nothing in particular, or maybe trying to avoid something in particular. Then I noticed him. Daniel. 6'1", tailored navy suit, hair that looked like it belonged in a cologne ad. He had that rare combination, devastatingly handsome but not arrogant, and people knew it. They also knew the man behind the looks, the founder of a thriving architecture and design firm that had reshaped half the city's skyline. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had built his success from the ground up, every project reflecting his precision, creativity, and eye for detail. His work wasn't just a career, it was a legacy. Buildings he designed stood like his signature across Boston, each one a reminder that Daniel Cole left his mark wherever he went. The moment he stepped into the room, there was a ripple. Conversations faltered mid-sentence. Heads turned. His presence wasn't loud, but it was undeniable, like gravity. Every woman in the room was watching him. Some made it obvious, leaning forward in their seats, tucking hair behind their ears, offering smiles that lingered just a little too long. Others played it cool, pretending to scroll through their phones, but I could see their eyes dart up when they thought no one was looking. And yet, I could feel the shift in the air every time he moved, sharper, more defined, as if the room itself adjusted to his presence. Whenever his gaze passed my way, it was like a quiet ripple cut through the noise, a subtle current that everyone sensed but no one named. Then his eyes found me. It wasn't fleeting. It wasn't casual. His stare held steady, deliberate, as though he was taking his time, weighing something only he knew. The conversations around us blurred, the background softened, yet he didn't look away. So naturally I avoided him. I turned back to the cupcakes, pretending to fuss over their arrangement with sudden purpose. Which is exactly why he noticed me. He came over holding a drink and said, "You haven't moved from this spot in 20 minutes. I laughed awkwardly. "That's because I'm guarding the cupcakes." Most guys would have smiled at that, tossed a polite chuckle my way, and moved on to someone flashier. Daniel didn't. He stayed. There was no rush in his manner, no glance over my shoulder to check who else was in the room. He stood there, fully present, as if this small corner by the dessert table was exactly where he wanted to be. He asked about my job, my hobbies, my favorite books. His questions weren't the shallow kind people ask just to fill the air. They felt deliberate, almost like he was piecing together a puzzle in his mind. And the whole time he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. Not in a hurried, impatient way, but with a steady, unbroken attention that made the rest of the party fade into background noise. I told myself it was politeness, nothing more. Then there was Vanessa. She was the kind of woman you couldn't ignore, tall with a model's figure and glossy black hair that caught the light every time she moved. Her designer dress looked like it belonged on a red carpet, and she wore it like she knew every single person in the room was watching. Confident, sharp, effortlessly magnetic. The room bent toward her without her even trying, though it was obvious she knew exactly how to use that gravity. She also had a not-so-subtle crush on Daniel. Everyone could see it. She laughed a little too hard at his jokes, the kind of laugh that lingered like perfume in the air. Her hand found reasons to touch his arm, fingers brushing the fabric of his suit as if testing its quality. Her body language told the whole story. The slight lean toward him, the quick glances up through thick lashes, the way she angled herself so that no matter where he moved, she was already facing him. When she saw him talking to me, I could feel her eyes slicing into my back. It wasn't curiosity, it was calculation. It was 2 weeks after the party when I saw him again. I had ducked into a quiet little Italian restaurant for a late lunch, hoping for a peaceful corner table where no one would bother me. The place smelled of fresh basil and baked bread. The kind of warm, inviting air that usually helped me relax. But then there he was. Daniel. Seated near the window with a man in an expensive suit, deep in what looked like a business discussion. Papers and a sleek laptop were spread out between them, the conversation clearly important. And yet he kept looking at me. At first I thought it was just a passing glance, the kind strangers exchange when they happen to recognize each other from somewhere. But it wasn't passing. Every few minutes I'd feel it, that shift in the air, that quiet gravity, and when I looked up his eyes were on me. Not distracted, not half listening to his client but watching. I tried to ignore it, focused on my pasta, checked my phone, pretended to be absorbed in the menu I had already ordered from. But it was impossible to pretend for long when his attention was that steady. By the time the bill came, my nerves had won. I decided to leave before it became awkward for both of us. I gathered my things quickly, heading for the door without looking back. Except, halfway down the block, I heard someone call my name. I turned and there he was, Daniel, suit jacket unbuttoned, slightly out of breath from catching up to me. The client was nowhere in sight. "Emma," he said, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. "Come meet me for a coffee. Just 10 minutes. It wasn't a question. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I didn't say no. The first time Vanessa made her move was at another mutual gathering. The room was loud with chatter, glasses clinking, and a low hum of music in the background. I was weaving my way past her toward the drinks table when her voice cut through the noise, perfectly timed, perfectly pitched, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Oh, Emma, I almost didn't recognize you. You actually wore makeup today." It was the kind of comment that sounded playful to the untrained ear, but every syllable was coated in venom. Heads turned. A few people exchanged knowing smirks. Some people laughed. My cheeks burned. Daniel didn't. His expression tightened, and his brow furrowed as he looked straight at her. "Why would you say that?" The question landed heavier than I expected. A few conversations around us went quiet. Vanessa's smile froze for a fraction of a second, too quick for most to notice, but I caught it. She brushed it off with a light laugh, waving her hand as if she'd been misunderstood. But just before she turned away, I saw it. The flash of irritation in her eyes, sharp and fleeting. It wasn't over. It was only the opening shot. Weeks later, Daniel invited me to a charity gala. I'd never been to one, so I was nervous. The ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers, the kind of place where even the air felt expensive. I wore a simple navy dress, nothing flashy, the safest choice I could think of. Halfway through the evening, Vanessa appeared at my table. She leaned in, smiling sweetly, her perfume sharp enough to cut through the scent of champagne. "Interesting choice to wear navy," she whispered. "Did you know that's the same color the catering staff is wearing tonight?" Her tone dripped with fake innocence, but her eyes gave her away. There was nothing accidental about the jab. A few people at the table chuckled under their breath, their glances darting between us. I ignored her. But then, an hour later, as I was speaking with one of Daniel's colleagues, 2 uniformed security guards approached my table. Their voices were low but firm. "Ma'am, we need to speak with you privately. There's been a report that you've stolen an expensive clutch from the coat room." The surrounding tables went quiet. I could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on me. A murmur rippled through the crowd, whispers carrying my name like it was already guilty. And there, just a few feet away, stood Vanessa, champagne glass in hand, watching. Then she raised her voice just enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Oh no, was it really her? I mean, I hate to say it, but I did see her hanging around the coat room earlier." Her words were dipped in mock concern, but every syllable was designed to land like a dagger. A few gasps followed, and suddenly the whispers weren't just whispers. They were little chains of gossip moving from table to table, pulling more eyes toward me. It was Vanessa. I was mortified. My family had always said I wasn't good enough. And in that moment, surrounded by strangers and judgment, it felt like they were right. But Daniel didn't believe it for a second. He stepped forward before I could even speak, his voice cutting clean through the tension. That's ridiculous. She's with me, and we're going to clear this up right now. That night, when I finally got home, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was my family. They had heard about the incident before I even walked through my front door. My mother's voice came first, sharp, shrill, and furious. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know how embarrassing this is for us? My friends were at that gala, Emma. They were there. I couldn't even look them in the eye when they called me after. In the background, my sister was crying loudly, dramatically, like she'd been personally ruined by the whole thing. You humiliated us, Emma. Everyone is talking about it. Do you even care what people will think of our family now? My father and brother were there too, but they didn't say a word. They just stood in the background, silent. Whether it was because they didn't believe me, or because they didn't want to get involved, I couldn't tell. The call ended the same way it began, with blame, tears, and the unspoken reminder that in their eyes, I had always been the weakest link. Daniel requested the security footage. And there it was, clear as day, Vanessa slipping the clutch into my coat pocket while I was distracted at the dessert table. The organizers confronted her in front of dozens of guests. The air went still, every head in the room turning toward the spectacle. She stammered, denied, her voice rising in desperation. But the evidence played on the large screen in the lobby, leaving no room for doubt. Finally, with her composure crumbling and her perfect mask slipping, she spun on her heel and stormed out, heels striking the marble floor like gunshots. The whisper spread like wildfire. Vanessa, the perfect girl, humiliated in front of Boston's elite. Outside, the night air was sharp and cold. She pushed through the valet line, ignoring calls for her to slow down. Then, in her blind fury, she stepped off the curb without looking. A car swerved. Brakes screeched. Guests rushed to the entrance just in time to see her stumble to the pavement, shaken and clutching her arm. It wasn't life-threatening, but the scene was chaotic. Sirens in the distance, onlookers whispering not about her beauty or her charm anymore, but about how fast a reputation could fall. A week after clearing my name, Daniel invited my family to dinner. They assumed it was just a polite gesture after the incident. It wasn't. Halfway through the meal, Daniel stood, drawing every eye in the room. Then, in front of my stunned family, he turned to me, pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and went down on one knee. The silence was absolute. My mother's fork froze midair. My sister's eyes went wide, disbelief etched across her face. My father's mouth actually parted like he was trying to form words but couldn't. Daniel's voice was steady, deliberate. Emma, I want to marry you. But before you answer, there's something you should know. I didn't first notice you at that engagement party. I saw you months earlier in a little bookstore on Charles Street. You were sitting cross-legged on the floor, completely lost in a book, with this tiny, unguarded smile on your face. I couldn't look away. I fell in love right then. And everything after only confirmed what I felt in that moment. He glanced at my family, his gaze unflinching. I fell for her before I knew her name. And what I love most isn't just her mind, or her kindness or her strength. It's how she's endured. Even when people, even her own family, made her feel small because of something as shallow as looks, she carried herself with quiet dignity. Looks fade. Character doesn't. If you judge someone's worth solely by their face, you'll miss the kind of beauty that never goes away. The table stayed silent. My mother lowered her eyes. My sister looked away, cheeks flushed. My father shifted uncomfortably. My brother simply nodded, as if finally understanding. I didn't trust my voice, so I nodded too, tears blurring my vision. Daniel slipped the ring onto my finger, his smile warm and unwavering. As for Vanessa, her fall was swift. Word of her stunt at the gala spread across Boston's social circles faster than she could control it. Invitations dried up. Former friends avoided her at events. No one remembered her as the perfect girl anymore. Only as the woman who tried to destroy someone else out of jealousy and got caught. Her reputation was no longer enviable. It was a cautionary tale. After the dinner, Daniel pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me as if he never intended to let go. He kissed me softly, then rested his forehead against mine. "That day in the bookstore," he murmured, "you looked like you belonged entirely to yourself. No pretending, no performing, just you. And I knew I had to meet you." It wasn't my looks that had drawn him in. It was the fact that I wasn't trying to impress him at all. Today, I'm not the average-looking daughter or the average-looking sister anymore. I'm Emma, the woman Daniel chose because I made him feel seen, not worshipped. And as for Vanessa, she's now infamous in our circle for being the one who tried too hard and lost everything. As for my family, they've learned to keep their blunt truths to themselves. It's funny, the same people who once introduced me as the plain one now avoid making any comment about appearances at all. Turns out, black and white doesn't cover the whole spectrum, because love is in the shades in between. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories filled with drama, twists, and a little bit of karma.